In a mysterious forest in Western Ireland, there's a folk tale that anyone who gets lost there will never come out again. This is proven by a man named John, who is struggling to get out before sunset. Ignoring the sign that says point of no return, the man in the red jacket analyzes that he will surely succeed. Unfortunately, after a few hours of travel, John fails and a flock of crows flies over him, signaling that the sun has set. Unexpectedly from a distance, John sees a terrifying creature, so he decides to climb a tree but falls. In his panic, John tries to grab a knife from his bag, but the mysterious creature drags him into the ground. A few days later in the city center, Mina, who is from America, is working at a pet store. Before heading back to her apartment, her boss assigns Mina to deliver a golden parakeet to a zoo that's quite far away. In her apartment, Mina names the bird Darwin and mentions that today is the anniversary of her mother's death 15 years ago. To forget her sadness, Mina decides to go out at night, first putting on a wig. When a man is drawn to introduce himself, Mina doesn't mention her real name and also lies about her job. The next morning, using her boss's car, Mina starts her journey to deliver Darwin, crossing interprovincial roads. While stopping at a gas station, Mina is repeatedly called by her twin sister, but she doesn't answer. In her sister's voicemail, Mina is asked why she never attends their mother's memorial and is urged not to distance herself from the family. Ignoring the voicemail, Mina continues driving, unaware of the info board showing many people missing in the forest area she's about to cross. After some time on the road, Mina still hasn't exited the forest while her phone is malfunctioning and the car suddenly dies. She got out of the car and found a sign that read, "Point of no return," leading her to think there might be a settlement nearby. To ensure Darwin's safety, Mina took him and started walking a few dozen meters while her bird looked scared. Not finding anyone, Mina decided to turn back to her car, but it was gone. Confused, Mina tried to find the car's path, while the sun was about to set. At that moment, she was startled by a flock of crows passing by and then heard the voice of an old woman. To ask for directions out of there, Mina decided to chase the woman who was hurriedly heading to a bunker. Without hesitation, the old woman told Mina to get inside quickly if she valued her life, so Mina complied immediately. After the door was closed, Mina found two other people inside the bunker, which seemed quite sturdy. The old woman then introduced herself as Madeline, while the others were Sierra and Daniel. The three of them called this bunker the cage, and admitted they were also lost and ended up using this building. Strangely, they asked Mina to join them in facing the window while Madeline introduced the creature outside called the Observer. The observers, more than one in number, come every night to watch humans from behind the glass, and leave before sunrise. As a new resident, Mina was guided by Madeline to step forward, and a thunderous applause sounded like a performance. In the middle of the night while others slept, Mina gazed at the one-way glass thinking of her late mother. The next morning after sunrise, Mina decided to leave the enclosure without heeding others' advice. A few dozen meters away, Mina heard a little girl whispering her name, then saw the girl asking why Mina did that. Frightened, Mina ran until she reached the top of a hill, realizing she was in the middle of a vast forest, unable to see its end. As Mina began to despair, Madeline appeared and explained that everyone also wanted to leave this forest but hadn't succeeded. It's dangerous to travel alone, as this condition can cause hallucinations that drive one insane. Signs indicating the point of no return are around the enclosure with a boundary radius technically calculated by someone called the Professor. Walking far past these signs, it's certain the person will return to the enclosure when the sun fully sets, if they fail to escape. This theory was proven by the incident with John at the beginning of the film, who turned out to be Sierra's husband, who hasn't returned to the enclosure until now. Hearing this reasonable explanation, Mina finally agreed to return to the enclosure. At night, Daniel gave a speech, saying Mina had returned to the show, and Sierra played music to dance in front of the observers. In the building equipped with a TV, Mina saw an old DVD about a reality show, with the professor's initials written on the back. The next morning, the group dispersed according to their tasks, and Mina joined Sierra, who was looking for medicinal plants. Sierra also talked about her husband John, who hasn't returned to the enclosure for 6 days, but she remains confident he is still safe and will soon come for her. While leading her to a mysterious pit, Sierra informed that Madeline always said seeing the observer directly could drive a person insane. Sierra showed a pit with a large enough diameter, of which there are many, interconnected around this forest, like tunnels where the observers live during the day and come out again at sunset. However, what shocked Mina the most was when Sierra mentioned that she and her husband had been lost here for about 5 months, with no clear way out. During lunch, Madeline instructed Mina on the rules that must be followed to stay alive. All residents are forbidden to turn their backs to the glass, open the door after sunset, be near the burrow, and must always stay under the light. The three of them then repeated the rules in a rather eerie manner. A few hours after the show, Mina spent time watching reality TV and sketching her thoughts in her notebook. In the middle of the night, while others were asleep, Mina stared at the glass and tapped it, but nothing happened. Unexpectedly, as Mina lay with her back to the glass, there was a loud knock followed by a terrifying screech. Madeline woke up and immediately instructed Mina to face the glass, which thankfully calmed the observers. The next morning, Mina joined Daniel, who was tasked with setting up animal traps for food. Daniel explained that he usually hunted with John, so it was quite challenging to hunt alone. At that moment, Mina saw the little girl in a pink dress again. Daniel also mentioned that Madeline was a former college professor, so the old woman had extensive knowledge. While exploring, Mina also learned that the young man had been here for 8 months but had never seen the observers. Mina thought that maybe Madeline had lied and persuaded Daniel to enter one of the burrows. Even though Daniel was scared, Mina insisted he help her descend using a rope and use a lighter once they reached the bottom of the burrow. Mina found many old items, including a newspaper from '92, a camera, and a rabbit doll. Not only that, Mina also found a bicycle, so she asked Daniel to lift it using the rope. While Daniel was still untying the bicycle, Mina heard a growl behind her and shouted for Daniel to lower the rope quickly. Unexpectedly, a mysterious creature with 6 fingers tried to touch her while speaking in an unknown language, but failed due to the sunlight. Sometime later, they brought the old items back to the enclosure and lied to Madeline, saying the items didn't come from the burrow. Mina thought the bicycle could speed up their escape from the forest, but Madeline was suspicious that Mina was hiding something. Even though Madeline repeatedly asked her to be honest, Mina kept it a secret. Meanwhile, Daniel, who was connecting the camera to the TV, guessed that the power source for the enclosure was under the building. After connecting it to the TV, they now have a view like a CCTV at the front door. That night, they acted normally, hoping to see the watcher's true form. Unexpectedly, they heard a knock and the camera showed feet. When the person spoke, Sierra was happy because it was John's voice, her husband, asking to be let in. Madeline stopped her, reminding her it might be a trick. As John pleaded with Sierra, Madeline asked Mina and Daniel about the second-hand item's origin, which they admitted. Since Sierra insisted on opening the door, Madeline asked her to ask a question only her husband would know. Unexpectedly, John couldn't answer Sierra's question about their favorite book bought with memories. Still stubborn, Sierra told John about a hidden camera under the door and asked him to show his face. As soon as John did, he was dragged away, and the camera was taken by the watcher unseen. Suddenly, the glass was pounded, so Madeline directed everyone to face it, stopping when it cracked. The next morning, they returned the items, hoping for forgiveness. "Are you done breaking the rules?" Mina promised not to break the rules again, while the watcher took the returned items. The scene showed young Mina with her twin sister and mother, revealing the girl in pink was her sister, always on her mind. Unlike her sister, Mina was mischievous and didn't want to be controlled, like insisting on rolling down the car window. Mina's finger got caught, causing her to scream and distract her mother, leading to an accident. Back in the present, Mina, not wanting trouble, worked with others to survive. Several weeks passed, and everyone began to lose hope of escaping this forest, and their mental state started to deteriorate. One day, Mina overheard Madeline scolding Daniel because his animal catch had decreased compared to previous days. Meanwhile, in the cage, Sierra was devastated by losing hope for her husband's return. Since her notebook was full of drawings, Mina started drawing on the floor and realized Sierra was missing. While searching for her, Mina found Sierra standing with a blank stare near a pit, saying she wanted to end her life to join her husband. Unexpectedly that afternoon, they heard Madeline screaming, who was tied up by Daniel. Madeline said Daniel had lost his mind, but Daniel denied it and said he was now the one making the rules. Sierra quickly chased Daniel, who ran towards the cage, while Mina helped Madeline untie herself. But when they returned to the cage, Daniel had locked the door, allowing only Sierra to enter. As a flock of crows appeared, Madeline suggested to Mina that they hide in one of the traps with a foul smell, hoping it would mask their presence. Daniel and Sierra began to prepare to face the glass, while the observers started arriving, passing by Madeline and Mina's hiding spot. Since the plan worked, they saw the true form of the cage. When the observers gathered in front of the cage, Daniel said the other two had escaped, causing the observers to disperse to search for them. Realizing the cage area was empty, Madeline and Mina rushed to the cage to desperately plead with Daniel to open the door. To convince Daniel, Mina revealed her biggest secret, that her mother's death was due to her own mistake, and she has lived with guilt ever since. After Mina said she didn't want Daniel to make the same mistake, Daniel relented and opened the door, allowing them to enter and immediately locking it. Madeline immediately scolded Daniel and regretted saving him when he was lost. Then Sierra calmed her down. They then faced the glass, and Madeline explained that she was a professor in mythology studies conducting research. Unlike the other three, Madeline intentionally entered and said she had seen the observer directly. Its form was similar to hers but not 100% the same, and Madeline also theorized that the observer had different names in various mythical stories, some calling it a fairy or a winged human. The creature was trying to learn human behavior, even tending to want to become human. Suddenly, the observer started knocking on the cage door, then spoke in Sierra's voice, asking for help. Unexpectedly, the other observers began to rumble, surrounding all sides of the cage, speaking in human voices. Madeline took the initiative to use a table to block the door, which, if opened, would swing outward. Sierra noticed something strange on the floor, while the observers became more aggressive in trying to break in. Daniel managed to open the floor cover, discovering another bunker, so everyone hurried down without forgetting Darwin, just before the observers broke the door. After turning on the light switch, they realized this place was the office of the professor mentioned earlier. Not only did they find the professor's work equipment, but they also found a food supply, and Daniel thought it was enough for several years. Mina saw an old computer without internet, but it still had the professor's research videos starting from 2001. In the beginning, Professor Rory explained he was very excited to see his research creature directly from behind safe glass. However, in the next video, Rory began to fear seeing the creature directly, so he changed the glass design to only view the side with lighting. Rory built this research place with local people who had no families and only worked when the observers were gone. Once the building was completed, Rory deliberately locked the workers outside, who were eventually killed by the observers. In another daytime video, Rory revealed he found one observer different from the others, as it appeared as a little girl and wanted to communicate. When placed in a barred room, the creature reverted to its original form, screaming at Rory. On the 300th day, Rory made his last video, expressing regret for his actions and deciding to end his life, along with the observer he had brought. Before doing so, Rory left an important message for anyone who found this video and wanted to leave the forest. His boat is on the river by passing sign number 134, and then following the direction of the flying birds to reach the intended river. Rory also asked for help to destroy all the research in his campus room, and then a gunshot was heard. Sierra, who now knew how to get out of the forest, celebrated by inviting Daniel to dance. At that moment, Daniel explained how he got lost here after running away from his strict father. Sierra offered Daniel to stay at her house if he wanted, and Daniel was touched and hugged her. The next morning, they headed to sign number 134, following the pre-prepared white line, and then released Darwin to follow. On their journey, they found the Seal Stone, and Madeline explained that this is where the Watchers were exiled after losing the war with humanity. Since then, for centuries, the Watchers have tried to dig to the surface, but unfortunately, their mystical abilities have drastically diminished, and even their wings have disappeared. They continued their journey while Mina saw hallucinations of herself as a child with her twin sister. Unexpectedly, it started to rain, and a flock of crows flew past them, indicating the sun was about to set. They heard the voices of the Watchers from afar and hurried until they finally reached the river. While the others prepared the boat, Daniel heard John calling, so he paused to make sure. Unexpectedly, Daniel appeared, bringing John to the riverbank, but Sierra immediately shouted that the creature was not her husband. Unfortunately, Daniel could not be saved and was killed. After that, the three of them witnessed the transformation process of the Watcher, which now duplicated Daniel's body. Madeline then calmed the two by explaining that the creature couldn't leave the forest. The next morning, the three of them, still with Darwin, saw a bridge and decided to climb up to wait for the next bus. Fortunately, the bus was not a hallucination, and they decided to part ways to their respective homes. Then Mina informed them that she would fulfill the professor's last request. Sometime later, Mina arrived at her apartment and cleaned up, but the regret over her mother's death still haunted her. The accident not only killed her mother but also caused her twin sister to have a scar on her face. The next day, Mina went to the campus and headed to Professor Rory's room, pretending to be his niece. Mina found the design for the construction of the cage and a recording explaining the origins of the professor's mystical research, complete with an ancient manuscript. Before the war, it turned out that the Watchers lived alongside humans, and some even married. From these mixed marriages, children were born who could withstand sunlight, and Rory assumed that these descendants had blended into society as humans. Mina was captivated by a large painting in Rory's room and found several family photos of the professor that shocked her. That night, Mina met Sierra and showed her the photo that surprised her, revealing that Madeline looked very much like the professor's wife. However, more surprisingly, his wife was reported to have died 8 years ago from cancer before Rory began his research. Mina assumed Rory wanted to use the mystical powers of the observers to reunite with his wife, explaining Madeline wasn't a real human. At that moment, Mina, waiting for Madeline, saw a car arrive, and it was the real Sierra, who revealed she'd been talking to Madeline the observer. The real Sierra entered her house, and the observer, now John, attacked her from behind until she passed out. As Mina tried to escape, the observer caught her and threw her, transforming into Daniel to mock humans. Even though Mina fought back with a glass shard, the observer was too strong and thanked her for helping it escape the forest. The creature then became Madeline and explained it always wanted to leave the forest after being shunned by its kind. Being different, this observer could be in sunlight, which its kind saw as an anomaly. After revealing it communicated with Rory to escape the forest, it was disappointed when Rory tried to kill it, though he failed. Moments later, the observer became Rory and also Mina, then decided to kill the real Mina. Mina then said Rory had a crucial secret, so the observer let her speak and heard that centuries ago, observers lived with humans. Some even fell in love and had kids, and Mina believed the observer before her was a human hybrid. Calling it Madeline, Mina noted it tended to care for humans. Surprised, it was confused and reverted to its original form, then flew to the roof. Before leaving, it said it hoped Mina's words about more hybrids weren't lies. After that, Mina checked on Sierra, who luckily only had minor injuries. Weeks later, Mina was visited for the first time by her twin sister, who had a family, to make peace with the past. Mina also recounted the events about the observers and sometimes felt Madeline the observer was watching her from afar in different forms. Meanwhile, at the window, Darwin looked at a little girl, who turned out to be Madeline the observer.